Welcome to the shadow frequency, where the veil between this world and the next grows thin, and the things that whisper in the dark are given voice. From the cryptic candlelit studios, deep in the Indiana forests, your host, Matt Wilson, and his spectral producer, Juniper Ravenwood, unearth the forbidden, the forgotten, and the fearsome. So, still your heart, dim the light, and listen closely. For once you tune into the shadow frequency, you may never tune out.
Welcome back to the Shadow Frequency. I'm Juniper, and tonight it feels as though somebody left a filing cabinet drawer open in a dark government basement, and the papers inside have been whispering. I hope you're settled in somewhere comfortable, although after tonight's episode, you may find yourself watching the sky through the nearest window a little more carefully. Tonight's episode is called Pursue, the UFO Files the Government Finally Opened, Unresolved, Unsealed, and Still Unexplained. Pursue is the government's newly created archive for declassified records connected to UFOs, UAPs, and alleged extraterrestrial life. Beginning of May of 2026, officials started releasing photographs, infrared recordings, witness statements, object sketches, and decades-old reports, some reaching back to 1949. What makes the archive so compelling is that these are the cases the government itself still lists as unresolved. They have survived changing agencies, new technology, and generations of investigators. Yet, they remain without a final name. That is where history, secrecy, and modern folklore begin to overlap, and where an old report can suddenly feel very much alive. Chris, I'll come to you first when the government opens an archive like this and says, "Here are the cases we still cannot settle." What goes through your mind?
My first thought is that the word unresolved is doing an awful lot of work. It means somebody looked at the material and couldn't close the file. And when you're dealing with military observers, astronauts and scientists at places like Los Alamos, that lingering uncertainty becomes rather difficult to ignore.
Exactly. Sometimes the most unsettling answer isn't extraterrestrial. It's, we still don't know. Matt, what was your reaction when you started going through these releases?
Honestly, June, it was the scale of it. This isn't one famous video being dusted off for the public. It's an expanding archive filled with material from different eras, different agencies, and completely different kinds of witnesses. You can move from a grainy Cold War film to a report from a modern military sensor, then suddenly find yourself looking at 3 photographs taken from Space Shuttle Columbia. Feels less like opening one case file and more like discovering a hallway lined with locked doors.
And tonight, we're going to try a few of those doors, Matt. The record is yours.
You are tuned to the shadow frequency, where every whisper tells a story from beyond the veil. Hosted by Matt Wilson. Produced by Juniper Ravenwood. With Chris Beach. The darkness continues.
Thank you, June, and this story begins nearly 220 miles above the Earth. It's November 1996. Space Shuttle Columbia is in orbit on mission STS-80. Below, the planet curves away in blue and white. Beyond the glass, there is no familiar landmark to help the eye judge distance. There is only Earth, darkness, and whatever crosses the camera's field of view. During that mission, 3 photographs captured an object outside Columbia. In the first frame, it appears near the glowing limb of Earth. In the second, its position and appearance seem to have changed, as though it has rotated or tumbled. In the third, the shape is seen against the planet itself, following a path that may have placed it somewhere between the shuttle and the world below. No one can recover its true size from the pictures. No one can say how far away it was. But almost 30 years later, those 3 images have been pulled from the government's holdings and deliberately placed inside an official archive of unresolved UAP material, and something nameless is still hanging there above the Earth. Columbia launched on November 19th and returned on December 7th after 17 days, 15 hours, and 53 minutes in space. The crew circled Earth 279 times and traveled roughly 7 million miles. Think about the precision. Every orbit calculated, every payload monitored, every maneuver planned. Then, amid that certainty, the camera catches a shape that refuses to fit the record. The object seems small because it occupies so little of the frame. But in orbit, appearances can be treacherous. Without distance, a speck could be close and tiny, or far away and immense. Without scale, a subtle change in position can resemble a deliberate maneuver. Yet there it is across 3 images, not a tale remembered years later or a light glimpse through a bedroom window, but a physical sequence preserved from one of humanity's most closely documented environments. The shuttle came home. The astronauts moved on. The photographs remained, and whatever crossed Columbia's view never supplied a name. That brings us to February 19th, 2026, when the President directed federal agencies to begin identifying and releasing government files related to UFOs, UAPs, and alleged extraterrestrial life. The resulting project received a name that sounds as though it came from a thriller, the Presidential Unsealing and Reporting System for UAP Encounters, or PURSUE. The first tranche arrived May 8th. More followed May 22nd, June 12th, July 10th, and August 7th. Officials say the work spans dozens of agencies and could involve tens of millions of records, many existing only on paper, with additional releases expected as files are found, reviewed, and cleared. That means PURSUE isn't a final disclosure package tied up with a bow. It is a living doorway into military reports, intelligence correspondence, photographs, infrared recordings, astronaut material, sketches, and witness interviews gathered across nearly 8 decades. Somewhere in that mountain of paper may be a forgotten Cold War secret, or a file that somebody once believed was too consequential to let the public see. I'm pulling 3 photographs from tonight's file, reproductions of the official STS-80 images in the PURSUE archive. If you set them side by side and follow the object, in the first, Earth's brilliant edge dominates while the object hangs against the black. In the second, its orientation looks different, almost as if one side is rolled toward the camera. In the last, the object is superimposed against the atmosphere below, giving the sequence a peculiar sense of motion. The archive doesn't call it a spacecraft or describe a crew encounter. It simply preserves the object as unidentified. That restraint almost makes the picture stranger because it leaves us with the raw visual question. Why these 3 images? What information once traveled with them? Was there a timing record, a camera log, a crew observation, or a fragment of telemetry that never followed the photographs into public view? We can see the thing across the frames, but the part of the record that might tell us what it was seems to have vanished into the dark behind it. And the Columbia is only the entrance. Deeper inside PURSUE sits a 1953 analysis prepared by the National Photographic Interpretation Center, examining UFO films recorded over Montana in 1950 and Utah in 1952. These were not simply newspaper clippings tucked into a folder. Specialists studied 16mm film, measuring brightness, motion, formation, apparent size, and acceleration. The objects were described as blue-white and possibly disc-like or oblate. Analysts considered the way groups appeared to change formation, the way individual lights altered direction, and the possibility that the films preserved movement beyond the performance of familiar aircraft. Their tentative language is extraordinary. Under the conditions they examined, the images did not comfortably resemble birds, balloons, conventional aircraft, known natural phenomena, or technology commonly understood at the time. Imagine reading that inside a military report in 1953, while the world was already living under the shadow of atomic weapons and the Cold War. The people studying those reels were not asking whether a campfire story was true. They were trying to decide whether something unknown had crossed American skies, and the film kept running after every familiar explanation had fallen away. 2 years before that report was written and 4 years before the films were analyzed, another mystery was already gathering over one of the most sensitive places in America. In 1949, scientists at Los Alamos met to discuss reports of green fireballs appearing near the laboratory that had helped create the atomic age. Meteor specialist Lincoln La Paz believed the objects behaved like ordinary meteors. Edward Teller raised the possibility of an unusual electronic phenomenon. The concern was immediate and practical. Strange lights were being reported near a facility at the center of the nation's nuclear secrets. Were they a new natural event, a foreign surveillance method, a hidden experiment, or evidence of something no one in that room had the language to describe? The experts compared observations and considered possibilities, but no consensus settled over the table. Instead, the reports moved into classified channels where uncertainty could be protected as carefully as knowledge. And when a government hides what it does not understand, the silence can become more haunting than the object itself, because somewhere beyond the locked door, the green fireballs were still falling. So that is where I want to pause. Columbia above the earth, old film passing through military hands and green fireballs over Los Alamos. Different decades, different witnesses, but the same official word waiting at the bottom of the page: unresolved.
What unsettles me is how long these cases have been sitting there. We're not discovering that people told strange stories. We're discovering that the stories entered government rooms and never fully came back out.
And the archive is connecting mysteries that used to feel separate. Once they're placed on the same shelf, you begin to wonder whether we're looking at scattered accidents of history or a pattern we've only just been allowed to see.
In the second half, we're going into the modern military encounters, why these records were classified, and what the word unresolved really tells us. We'll also ask whether the missing pieces can ever be recovered, or whether some of these files will remain open forever. Juniper and Chris, I'll turn it over to you guys.
The government finally opened the files. But disclosure does not always deliver answers. Sometimes it only reveals how much remains unresolved.
So far tonight, we've traveled from Columbia's orbit to Cold War film rooms and the uneasy skies over Los Alamos. What I keep wondering is what all of you are thinking right now. Does an official archive make these cases feel more credible? Or does it simply make the mystery larger? And if these are the files we're being shown, what remains out of sight? Chris, before we open the next drawer, I'll hand it over to you.
Cheers, June. What strikes me is that these files aren't asking us to believe a polished story, they're showing us the gaps, and somehow those gaps are the eerie part. While you're thinking it over, please like and subscribe on whatever platform you're using. It genuinely helps the algorithms find the show. We're on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Rumble, and all the major podcast directories. At shadowfrequencypodcast.com, you'll find every episode, the companion blog, merch, show notes, and links to all our platforms. You can also support us by buying us a coffee or send an email or voice message through the website. We may play yours in a future episode. Back to you, Junie.
Time to fire up the spectrocosmic message materializer. I'm flipping the brass switches, giving the ectoplasmic dial one careful turn, and there it goes, humming like a refrigerator in a haunted kitchen. Let's see what has slipped through tonight. There's a message knocking from inside the attic. Let's open the little door before it changes its mind. Let's see, this one comes from Lyle in South Carolina and found us on Spotify. And Lyle writes, "Hi, Shadow Frequency crew. I usually listen on Spotify in the evenings while I'm out in my shed doing small engine repair. There's something about rebuilding a carburetor with the door open, the tree line going dark, and one of Matt's UFO stories playing that makes me check over my shoulder more than I'd like to admit. UFO cases are my favorite, especially the older ones with government documents, and I'm also a sucker for a good haunting. Keep opening strange files, and if you ever hear a lawnmower start by itself in South Carolina, it probably belongs to me. Take care and keep one light on, Lyle. Ha! Lyle, that image is perfect. Tools on the bench, darkness settling beyond the shed, and a half-rebuilt engine sitting there like it knows something. Thank you for listening. And if that mower does start on its own, please don't investigate without sending us a voice message first. You can reach us at shadowpodcast@protonmail.com. Chris, I'll turn it over to you for tonight's Shadow News.
Cheers, June. Lyle sounds like exactly the sort of listener who understands that every workshop becomes a little stranger after sunset. And I agree, if the mower starts itself, keep your hands well clear and send us the recording. Here's tonight's Shadow News. Astronomers in Ukraine say they may have detected around 20 unusually large unidentified objects moving across or near the moon, but the findings are already attracting plenty of skepticism. The observations were made by researchers at Ukraine's main astronomical observatory over several months in 2025 and are described in a study that has not yet been peer-reviewed. Some of the objects were estimated to be enormous, possibly as much as 25 miles across, and were divided into two categories, depending on whether they appeared stationary or in motion. Predictably, the claims have fueled speculation about extraterrestrial spacecraft or even hidden activity on or around the moon. The problem is that the objects themselves were captured with very little detail, in some cases appearing as nothing more than a handful of pixels. That leaves open a much more ordinary explanation, such as image artifacts, observational errors, or another poorly understood phenomenon. Until the work has been independently reviewed and the detections can be confirmed, the safest conclusion is that something unusual may have been recorded, but exactly what it was remains very much an open question. That's tonight's Shadow News. Junie, I'll toss it back to you.
Thank you, Chris. 20 possible objects near the moon sounds enormous until you remember how much uncertainty can hide inside a few pixels, which connects almost perfectly with tonight's case. A picture can't be real, the observation can be sincere, and the answer can still remain just beyond reach. Now, in the second half, we're following that uncertainty from the old classified files into modern military sensors. We'll ask why some UAP records stay secret, what may be missing when they are released, and whether an unresolved object is evidence or something extraordinary, or simply evidence that the trail went cold. Matt, bring us back into the archive.
A classified document may conceal an extraordinary object, or merely the secret technology used to observe it. In the Pursuit Archive, mystery and national security occupy the same shadows.
Thank you, June and Lyle. I know exactly what you mean about working in a shed after dark. Chris's story is a good reminder, too, that an enormous conclusion can be balanced on a very small number of pixels. Now, before we get to that skeptical turn, I want to pull one more item from tonight's file. This is a reproduction of the March 1949 Los Alamos Conference on Aerial Phenomena Memorandum. The language is dry, the kind of typed government record that was never meant to sound frightening, but the names and questions inside it tell another story. Lincoln La Paz, an authority on meteors, had been studying the green fireball reports. Edward Teller, one of the era's most prominent physicists, participated in the discussion. They considered shallow angle meteors and possible electrical effects, yet the conference reached no single conclusion. What matters is why they were in the room at all. Unknown luminous objects had appeared near the place where America guarded its atomic knowledge. Nobody needed to say alien for the situation to be chilling. If the lights were foreign technology, national defenses had been penetrated. If they were natural, scientists were confronting an unfamiliar event. And if they were neither, then the most heavily guarded minds in the country were meeting beneath a sky that seemed to know exactly where to find them. Jump forward 70 years and the reports have moved from typed memoranda and film reels into infrared systems, range fowler reports, and witness debriefs. One 2019 case involved an object observed from an airborne platform. A witness with 28 years of combined Air Force and Navy experience described flight characteristics unlike anything he had previously encountered. The object appeared small, moving fast in a straight line opposite the aircraft's direction, and the publicly available material did not provide a tidy identification. Another case recorded in 2020 over the Atlantic described something dark or maroon, roughly 12 to 15 feet tall, with a strange, distorted form. Imagine that shape hanging in the sensor picture. Too large to dismiss casually, too unfamiliar to name on sight, drifting through military awareness like a figure glimpsed at the edge of a doorway. These modern records matter because the observers know aircraft, ranges, and the normal traffic of controlled airspace. Their experience does not make them infallible, but it makes their uncertainty meaningful. When someone who has spent decades learning what belongs in the sky says, "I have not seen this before," the statement does not prove what the object was, but it tells us the unknown came uncomfortably close. Now, here is the skeptical angle, and it is important because it may explain both the secrecy and some of the mystery. AARO's 2025 paper on declassification says that an image of an ordinary object can remain classified if the picture reveals the abilities or limitations of a sensitive military camera. Resolution, metadata, collection location, platform details, and sensor performance can help an adversary understand how to avoid detection. In other words, the secret may be the eye, not the thing the eye saw. The same caution applies to the older files. The 1953 film analysis relied in places on assumed distances. The footage had been copied, and every generation of duplication could alter image detail. Analysts lacked ideal equipment, money, and corroborating data. The maroon object from 2020 reportedly traveled with the wind and was described as resembling a large, deformed balloon. And one STS-80 astronaut, Tom Jones, has argued that unusual shuttle imagery can show nearby ice crystals or debris behaving strangely under thruster blasts and orbital lighting. Those explanations are rational, plausible, and necessary to consider, but they do not retroactively identify every object in pursuit. They reveal something almost as unsettling. A case can remain unresolved forever because the one missing measurement was never taken, and the answer may have disappeared before anyone realized they needed it. That is why the word unresolved has to be handled carefully. It is not a species of craft and is not a verdict of extraterrestrial origin. It describes the condition of the evidence. A photograph without range cannot give reliable size. A video without complete platform motion can create apparent acceleration. A witness report without sensor data may preserve an honest observation but not a testable answer. Redacted metadata may protect national security while also removing the very information independent researchers would need to solve the case. So when the government places a file in Pursue, does that give the object greater evidentiary weight or only official archival status? Are we seeing the strongest mysteries or simply the records that agencies could clear for release without exposing capabilities? And how many familiar things become extraordinary after the context around them has been cut away? This is a paradox at the center of the archive. Transparency is finally opening the cabinet, Yet every blacked out line and missing measurement reminds us that an open file can still contain a locked room. The fifth tranche arrived on August 7th, just a few days ago, and the government says the review continues. More historical analysis, military encounters, witness interviews, and reconstructed images have entered the public archive, while additional material remains somewhere in the process of discovery, review, and declassification. So let's return to Columbia. 3 photographs, one shape changing across the frames, Earth glowing beneath it. Perhaps it was a small piece of debris tumbling close to the shuttle. Perhaps a missing camera log could settle the question in minutes. Or perhaps those 3 frames captured something that no one aboard Columbia, no analyst on the ground, and no investigator 3 decades later has been able to recognize. Pursuit may eventually show that most of its mysteries were created by distance, secrecy, and imperfect machines. It may preserve a handful that resist every conventional answer. But tonight, the archive is still growing, which means its most important record may not be online at all. It may be sitting in a box marked for review, held behind one final classification stamp, waiting for someone to decide that we are allowed to know. And somewhere in the dark, the next file is already being opened. That is where Pursuit leaves us, not with disclosure in the Hollywood sense, but with an official admission that some encounters remain without a final answer. The door is open, but the hallway beyond it is still dark.
And perhaps that is the most honest place to leave it. Yeah. Most of these cases may eventually prove ordinary, but ordinary explanations have to be demonstrated, not simply assumed.
Yep.
Until then, the unknown remains exactly that.
Yeah.
I keep coming back to those 3 photographs. Even if the object was something simple, we are still looking at a question that waited 30 years for the public to ask it.
Exactly. Classification is not proof of aliens, and declassification is not proof that every claim inside a report is correct. But a mystery does not stop being worth examining just because the answer might be ordinary. Tonight, the government has handed us the files and admitted that the last page has not yet been written. Juniper, I'll turn it over to you.
Perhaps most of these sightings were born from imperfect sensors, missing evidence, and human uncertainty. Or perhaps the one file capable of changing everything has yet to be released.
Tonight, we opened Pursue and followed the trail from the green fireballs over Los Alamos to the films examined in 1953, the modern military reports, and those strange photographs captured from Space Shuttle Columbia. We learned that unresolved does not automatically mean extraterrestrial, but it also does not mean explained. Sometimes it means the evidence is incomplete. Sometimes it means the secret was the censor. And sometimes it means the file has survived every attempt to close it. Thank you for joining us for episode 367 of The Shadow Frequency. Visit Shadow Frequency podcast.com where you'll find every episode, our blog, merchandise, show notes, platform links, and the option there to buy us a coffee. So yeah, we'll be back with another strange case from the shadowed edge of history. You guys, Matt and Chris, want to say goodnight?
Good night, everybody. Keep asking questions, keep looking up, and remember that unidentified is not an answer. It's an invitation to keep searching. We'll see you next time.
Good night from me as well. Stay curious, stay sensible, and perhaps don't trust every light that moves across the sky after midnight. And on that note, let's go watch some Star Trek. Cheers, everyone.
Heck yeah, let's watch Enterprise.
Voyager.
Enterprise.
Voyager.
Enterprise.
Boys, as long as it's not Deep Space Nine. Goodness.
Okay.
And good night from me. Until we meet again, keep a lamp burning near the window. And if something taps on the glass from the other side, make certain you're still on the ground before you answer. Oh, guys, not the original series.
Why not?
This episode was conjured with a solemn vow to explore the unexplained while remaining bound to the truths that have been unearthed. All interpretations are speculative. and offered only for your enlightenment and your entertainment.